Through the power of love, a frustrating, offbeat, arcade Castlevania game has been reborn as a beautiful and charming Trojan horse who slipped its way into the Dominatrix package in order to convert more people into Classicvania fans. Or so it seems. Hello everybody. Welcome to a Getting a Pulse video on Castlevania Haunted Castle Revisited. Ooh. I had a blast playing this yesterday, and it was a firm step up in my relationship with the Classicvania type of games. I have a lot of great stuff to say about this game, or rather, I have a lot of very warm, positive feelings, and I think I can offer some interesting insight for just about anybody interested in the topic, as I have not played a bazillion of these games. This is not an experienced player's position, but I'm also not exactly a newcomer anymore, since I've genuinely sweated it out on 3 different Classicvanias from 3 pretty different eras, I think, or maybe 2 of them are kind of close, but one of them's Bloodstained, so yeah. I know a few things about this style. I don't know everything, and I would like to kind of talk a bit about why I think that, as somebody who's new to this, and this being the first time I've ever finished one, besides the difficulty being pretty low as far as I can tell, why this seems like a very appealing way to get people into the series. Why I almost wish that this thing was packaged on its own as a $2 game, or just put on phones or whatever, just to get more people to try Classicvania, because I haven't tried them all, but of the 4 that I've tried, this is the one where I was like, ooh, I can play this. So let's get into why. So this is the Castlevania Haunted Castle game in the castle-like genre. And I think that this is a really interesting little game from my little experience. I've played 7 Castlevania games or so now, 3 of which have been classic, 1 of which was Bloodstained, but it definitely built my road to where I am now. And folks were on Twitter, they were super abuzz about this. They were this is essentially a new game. People were this is virtually a new game. And I'm what do you mean? What does that mean? It turns out that this is a really thorough remake of an arcade game. The only Classicvania arcade game, I think. It's included in the package, and I played about 1 minute of it before I decided that it was not very fun. In the moment, there's all this, the whip is very small. I've heard it's actually a sword. I think the story is all different. That's why we have insane developments in this story, such as Simon has a husband or something. I don't know, I'm not paying attention. But there's bombs as sub-weapons, and they felt really bad to use. There's just a lot going on. They had the Yellow Devil Torment section in the first level. That's just been fully removed from the game, so they did a lot of surgery to turn this from what it was into a really just, frankly, kind of straightforward and simple and approachable Classicvania, which is just fascinating. I am so glad that I took a second to look at the history before I went and talked about this, because I almost have no complaints in light of that, in light of how much they did to soften it out and make it approachable. So basically, one more time, I am a really big fan of Rondo. I like Rondo more than this. It has a really strong personality. I feel like that game just has a really beautiful soul. It has a lot of personal, investment stuff. Sorry if I don't sound like myself today. I have a fake concussion or something, and my brain has been off for about a week. Rondo I like the characters a whole lot. Art style is beautiful. It kind of stands out in the series, and it's just a wonderful, colorful game. And at many levels, not just superficially. It has a lot of flavor. Super 4, the remake of 1 that you could have called Super Castlevania, but they called it 4. I think it's just 1, but on the SNES. That was technically my first, and it's definitely my least favorite. I don't dislike it. I've played a good amount of it, 5 or 6 levels or so now. And yeah, I don't know, I have the least to say about that one because it's been a while since I played it. I feel in a lot of ways this is somewhat similar to that one because it is very straightforward, I suppose. There's no character swapping, and there's no oodles and oodles of sub-weapons like in Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Circle of the Moon, Curse of the Moon. That was this one's Curse. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2 was what I really played when I first gave this style a shot. And yeah, so they have the 4 character swapping stuff from 3, which is hella not in this game. And every character has like 3 of their own sub-weapons. So that game has a lot going on, and I appreciate how kind of classic Bloodstained balls to the wall it is by comparison. This is so much simpler than those other games, but I feel like this one is, again, I'm gonna keep saying this word, like approachable. So I realized the way the difficulty works is they start you at normal. I thought maybe they started you on easy because I beat it, but no, they start you on normal, but you can go to the options menu, I think, before you even beat the game and go down to easy or up to hard, which is the way that it should be done. I don't know how far hard pushes it, but normal's very smooth. They have an incredibly generous usage of the continue system. Like, you literally, like, spoilers, you can die, lose all of your lives halfway through fighting Dracula, do a full continue, and you don't even restart the level. You start in the second phase. Like, it's one of the most generous continue systems I've ever seen in a video game. So there's that, but also there's like an actual true easy mode. And beyond that, I feel, I read that what they did is they went and they cut like 9 sub-weapons or whatever down to just like 5 or 6 very kind of traditional ones for this, and that does make it a very easy to understand experience. That's just one of the parts. There was a whip system in Castlevania 4 that I didn't fully understand. Like, I could kind of tell when I went from like leather, what are whips made out of? Leather? Rope? Whatever the brown one was, up to chain. Like, I knew when I had that, but in this game it's a lot easier to tell, like, oh, okay, blue orb, that means that this is now a chain whip, it's a bit longer. Then there's like a superpower mode where you get like an extra blue orb on top of that. Now you have like this green bar. Once it runs out, you stop having like the long, kind of fiery almost whip. It was easy for me to tell what was going on. I was like, fuck yeah, let's go on the offense. So those are some of the layers that I think made it so much easier to understand what is going on in this one. There's also a lot less in terms of secrets and branching paths. It was kind of disheartening when I played the other games because I would see something and I'd be like, I don't know, I have no idea how to get in there, and I haven't gone back for almost anything. There's one crazy plank pushing puzzle in Rondo that I've worked my way through that I don't think I'm going to solve anytime soon. I've googled it and I still don't really understand what it does. This game doesn't really seem to have those. It doesn't even seem to really have like wall chicken. Like, there's a couple kind of cheeky food placements, but I've played the whole thing about twice already. I mean, I'm gonna get to the replayability pretty soon, but like, this thing is so replayable that I almost did a full replay since writing my notes. Like, in that tiny amount of time, I wrote my notes at work and I came home and I'm like, yeah, I could play Haunted Castle again. Why not? And having done that, I really haven't noticed much that where I'm like, this is a curious one. They use red orbs as like a reward for if you do something a little bit tricky. They fall from broken chandeliers and they're like, you solved this little thing puzzle, like you went the hard route or whatever. It's just something for your score. That I think is also nice. It's a very like approachable direction for incentivizing players to mess around, because like, it's not as disheartening as like, oh, I could have taken the cool path. It's just kind of like, yay, I got this thing, and if you don't get it, you won't even notice that you missed it. So it's, yeah, the secrets, you know, I think it's a bit hurting the replay value that there's not a lot there to look for, but the redstone is also like, it's a big, nice, juicy redstone when you find it. It doesn't make you feel like you're missing things or incompetent, as I sometimes feel when you don't actually catch it. Actually, I want to dwell more on the replayability. Just listening to my take here, I'm like, wait a second, you're almost contradicting yourself. So on one hand, like, it's very, very fun. It's very hard to put down. When I was on a groove, even though it was just, breaking my knuckles, when I was on a groove with Curse of the Moon 2, I had a hard time putting it down. I think something about the pacing in which you get one-ups is really good in that game, where maybe it's the modern game sensibilities, you're less likely to get a crushing game over and lose your whole progress on the screen or whatever. I feel like those levels are really long and intense, come to think of it. Like, I've really gone to town on Curse of the Moon 2 and Rondo, and Rondo is like, the levels are much shorter, I want to say, but like if you game over, like it's tough sometimes to drag yourself through the whole level. Like, oh my god, it sure can be. These games don't feel that way, and Haunted Castle certainly doesn't feel that way, because again, I haven't tried hard. Maybe it is blisteringly hard, but like this is kind of a very round philosophy. I don't really know how to put it into words. Like, when I play the Game Boy version of something, like Mega Man 2, people hate that game. I kind of like it. I'm getting way ahead of myself. I have my whole life to get yelled at about this. Seeing the world of Mega Man 2 get kind of shrunk down for the Game Boy is one of my most favorite parts of Mega Man World 2. Just the enemies, they're fewer, but they're bigger and they're rounder. That's part of why I like Triple Deluxe, Kirby Triple Deluxe. Everything's just like, it takes up a little bit more space. Playing like Kirby Dream Land or Dream Land 2 compared to Adventure, you can see how things almost feel like not shrunk, but like everything just takes up more space. So there's less enemies, there's less chaos going on. And this game is that. Like, this game has, like, mermen will pop up one at a time instead of swarming you. Like, there's very few of the Towers of Skulls. Some of them are literally just one skull breathing fire at you from the floor. Like, if there is the cross for wiping out the whole screen, but it's only ever used for like 2 enemies and 3 bats, or like, a mummy, a sand guy, and some crow. It's never that overwhelming. So I feel that it is very easy to focus on each enemy. You're never going to get like super overwhelmed, in my opinion, and that is a big part of why just like the second to second gameplay isn't too overwhelming. It just, everything feels very, very manageable. I really like it. But on the other hand, even if it's hard to put the game down because it's almost watery on normal with how easy it is to get through, the lack of secrets actually is a bit of a thing, right? I think it's short term hard to put down, but in the long term, like, I'm no expert, but I could obviously see this being something that would hurt your long-term relationship with the game, or maybe it is not only just good for beginners, but a good starting game where you have your fun, with the kind of straightforward, easy, non-punishing gameplay, and then, maybe a few years go by and you're like, yeah, it's just a romp. It's just a little romp. I hate that word. It feels so dismissive. It's just a romp. It might be lacking in that depth. Decisions, paths splitting, multiple characters, multiple sub-weapons for approaching a scenario. One of my only knocks about the game is that just the first time through, I was like, the axe is good on everything. Like, the axe is good on almost every boss. I started to resent the axe because it's readily abundant. It's probably the most common drop. And, like, it's always a good pick for the final boss of every level. So I was like, come on, axe. That's just another thing where I suppose I was starting to get worn down by the simplicity, but it doesn't overstay its welcome because there's just so many other beautiful parts of the game, and it's just not terribly long. So let's get into more of that. So yeah, in summary, they did a lot of work, like heavy lifting to make this game go from being kind of either like a footnote or a meme, as far as I can tell, into being like a legit part of the gang. Like, this just feels, this is a real Castlevania game. Like, this is very, very solid, and it is just full of what I have come to expect from the series. I wouldn't even have expected it to have had such a weird history, having just played Revisited, not looking at the first one. So what is it that I mean by that? Like, I'm like, the game is good, it's very approachable, it's half replayable, half not. What it is it's very hardy. I'm trying to put my words on this. It really all comes down to the way that they chose to turn the mountains in the backgrounds of especially level 1 into like kind of the core identity of the game to me. And follow me on this, right? So on one level, it's 6 really kind of generic Castlevania levels. One is you're approaching the Fucklands through the woods. One is level 2, which is a cave. I think it might even be an underground secret passage that brings you straight to the gate to the castle. Then you're in the castle, and you have the... what the fuck is the third one? It's just the cool place. It's just like castle. I don't know. It's the most just like castle part of it. I love it. Level 4 is like you're going through the basement, and then level 5 is the clock tower. My favorite clock tower so far, I might add. And then level 6 is like the bridge to Dracula. So nothing outstanding there. But anytime you can see outside, you can see the mountains. Like, this is consistent. We were talking about how the background is really inconsistent and kind of surreal and there is one area that I'll mention in the like level review, monster review part that I'm gonna finish with that feels like a prog rock album cover to me, like a Pink Floyd album cover or something like that. But it just, you know, that's the only surreal thing. Everything else, like, if you can see behind the area, there's gonna be big mountains. Like, it is a very set game in its little place. And I think ever since I saw the title screen and footage from level 1, which is the outdoors one, it has the mountains, it has walks through graveyards and stuff, and just the big mountains over and over again. Did I say mountains twice? One thing should have been pine trees. One thing should have been big imposing pine trees, and the other is mountains. So that just gives you this big kind of epic feeling in your chest. It's outdoorsy. It's really just like hardy and just like nature-y. It's like touching grass almost. Touching grass is a very funny metaphor for this game, actually. And you know, why am I so hype about this? Why am I so hype about this? So on one level, it's a nickel game. It's the second nickel, because this is the second time in 1 month that, because I love pattern recognition, I got into a sub 1 hour experience that I didn't initially think much of and basically got for free, which set their series that I had formerly felt was a little bit too emotionally heavy and just difficult to play for replaying often, and took them and made them much more light and replayable and robust and outdoorsy through a red color scheme and a mountain setting. This has already happened to me once this month with Momodora, but the thing that you're actually here to hear about is the fact that this game, holy crap, I have mostly been ignoring the best stuff, and from here on out it is all the best stuff. It is just such a triumph of game feel. This game just feels incredible. Like, oh my god, the visuals are so lush. Like, they could have done some like dehydrated ass 2D, 3D art style with like gross cheapy assets. No, they made pixel art, and the pixel art is so lush. I talked about how everything like takes up a lot of space. The enemies are really easy to read. Like, you're not getting attacked by a lot, so you can see them, and they're very just like, you know, lovingly made. They're big, they're expressive. The environments are just beautifully detailed. The little lights you break look good. Your whip looks excellent, and it feels so good to use because, in addition to making everything look really good, the game is just really well polished. Like, there was only one section that annoyed me really, and that's just incredible for a game that's meant to just like, you know, whip your ass till you come. Like, there was like one boss where I was like, this is a little bit jank. There has been so much either jank or like jank from being an older game, or just like stuff that hurts in the other games. This isn't just easy, it's comfortable. Like, this feels like driving a sports car or like a luxury sedan or something after playing the other classic Vanias. Like, oh my god, like, I think it gets away with its lack of secrets and stuff and its easiness because it just feels incredible. You know, everything is polished well. It's just, you never have a moment of like, that should have worked differently. You almost never do. And it sounds so good, from the whip noises to the really, really fun voices that they give to the enemies, not the animals. The enemies have just like funny sounds like, wah, and that goes a long way the more that you play it. And the music. Like, this is a big part of why I tried the game, is everybody I saw talking about this game was like, yo, you didn't have to go and give us such a good version of Bloody Tears, but you did. Like, the soundtrack is so full, and there's like some alternate versions of some tracks too in like the playlist function of the Dominus emulator. Dominus. These tracks are really, really well made. They just feel very full, they're very driving. My favorite one is the clock tower, because they added a little marimba sound that just literally sounds like little skeletons either playing the marimba or like their bones are jangling. Like you're going up this elevator and the enemies are coming at you, and this is already a really groovy song. Like there's numerous good layers already that make it super easy to groove to, but then the bones come in like doodly doo doo doo, and it's like, oh, you didn't have to do that for me, you didn't have to go that extra mile. But that is just the stuff. Like those are my favorite Castlevania feelings. Like you're driven, you're full of energy, like you have that lush, robust and hearty, like August feeling in your chest, and the music is just pushing you, and it's just so driving while also being really cool. And I was just full of the spirit of Castlevania the whole time. Like all of these things come together to just make like an experience that's really hard to put down, even though again, like I almost feel like my fingers were being bitten by my first experiences with this genre. They're just always looking for reasons to like getcha. Oh, he didn't see me there. Oh, bam, bam, bam. It's not even like a get good thing. It's just like it hurts. Like it hurts to play these games, and it's part of the fun. But this takes down the spicy so far and pushes up just like the cool atmosphere to a degree where like I wouldn't even call it watery. It's just like it's just a different feeling. It's a really, really nice, cohesive feeling in the end. It doesn't feel like a cheap, easy, boring one. Like, once you get a level down really well, there are some levels that aren't that fun to replay, but that hasn't happened here yet because it's just so juicy and good. So now, as a treat, because I accidentally captured so much B-roll that I can talk for half an hour, I am going to go through, and this is why I wanted to even make the video, every enemy and talk about what I feel about it, because this is my first time, right? Like, this feels like an initiation to the Castlevania Club. A new game came out, which doesn't bloody happen much, does it? And I hopped on night one, and like there weren't already people in my ear telling me what to think about it. Like I made my own experience, I had a fun time with it. It was like, people were like, this game's good. That's all that I knew, just pure hype. And I went in and, fresh experiences, totally, never before seen things, and it sit in this larger context where it's like, oh, I like how they used that enemy. Oh, that enemy is really good here. Ooh, wow, what a surprising design. Like, it feels like playing Pokemon or something I've been playing my whole life now. Like, this was a moment where I became like another rank higher in fandom. And because of that, I just have so much fondness for these enemies. I love them. They're just the most recent, one of my most favorite takes on the vast majority of them. It's not only is this my first time like caring so much about the Castlevania monsters, but I also just really like this batch. So I want to talk a bunch and also review the levels a little bit as I go, because I'm going to go level by level. I just replayed this, so I don't think I'm forgetting any. I'm trying so hard to be sure I didn't forget any. They might come in a bit of a jank order because I haven't like super thoroughly gone through this, but we're gonna get all but probably one of them, and you got to talk about the context they're in. But before this, shout out to Simon. He looks really good. I wasn't super one way or another when I first saw this, but at some point I noticed that his armor is like black and gold, which is really sharp. It reminds me of something, like not just like Marth's Baltimore Orioles outfit from Super Smash Brothers, but like in this art style. Like, I don't know, maybe Dragon Quest, some Dragon Quest armor. Looks really good. The blue hair, I don't think matches the armor that well, but it's a cool idea. Why not? Blue hair. So level 1. Level 1 is the mountains. It's very outside. One of the first enemies, if they don't stay for very long, is the bloody zombies. I usually am fond of these. I usually enjoy them, even huge numbers of them. But something about the spawners, these are the ones in this game where I'm like, oh, I don't know about these. I was saying nothing feels super jank, but there's one placement in level 1 where it's pretty early in the game, and it's like, man, I can't even crouch and hit you. Now I gotta jump in there with you, and you're gonna get me. And they always take like 3 hits to kill. They're fine. The blood is good, but this is one of the only weak ones. The bats are fine. The bats I like also. They're very visible, as I mentioned. Sometimes they crowd you. They fly in a very hittable pattern. They're not, revolutionizing the game, but they're very solid. The trees that attack you, I did play enough of the original to notice that these are dudes who come out of the tree and attack you. In the arcade version, I stand by the decision to give some agency back to the trees and have them attack you directly in the remake, and those are cool. They're one of the few enemies that was surprising and wasn't like this game's take on a classic, so I thought that was pretty neat. They surprised me. I had to really react to that situation and be like, where do I stand? Like, they weren't very ignorable. But now we're getting to the really good stuff. The skeletons. This will be a moment to review all of the skeletons. There are some basic boys, and they're fine. You know, again, had benefits from this art style. They look very alive, very full-bodied, well-rendered. Some of them are blue. That's very nice. I do like a blue skeleton, unless they're laser beaming me in the Colosseum of Aria of Sorrow, as it would be. The bone throwers, shout out to them in this game. They will throw 2 bones, usually, and they're positioned in dastardly locations, as you've probably come to expect, but they also throw in a really mean timing, where you can lock in and block their first bone, because like they're not like showering you in bones or anything. But, you know, you can get the first one. The second one has a really nasty timing, and I find that very fun. You really have to stop and give them the time of day. I respect that. But the best thing about the skeletons is the ones that drop ghosts. This is another really fun, just charming part of the game, is there's a good number of them at certain levels where every time you kill them, a ghost will come out. And similar to the bone throwers, it has a bit of a weight to it, like, or a bit of a pause to it. And it'll come right at you. There's this ghost, and she herself has like a good design, kind of ready to pounce, kind of like comet-shaped almost. And anytime you hit one and you're not ready, they're gonna get you. So they're very exciting. They demand your time. I think they're very cool. So it's a good game for skeletons. Skeleton lovers rejoice. Are there any boners in the chat? I don't have as much time as I thought I was going to have. So let's move on to the boss, Medusa. She spawns small snakes, which are an easy A+. You like to have that around. That's a very nice thing to have. I'm fine on Medusa herself. I don't know if like the long snake is its own creature, but in my mind, this is just like the Medusa instead of Medusa's head. And she's alright. Like, she's definitely a fun fight. I like that she's just like, you know, showing you 2 different moves. Figure out which one it is. I think she's cool. She's fine. Use the axe. Level 2 is gorgeous. Level 2 is just unbelievably nice. You start off maybe kind of in a fuck-ass locale, but you go downstairs into this blue cave. The blue cave is one of my favorite rooms in the whole game. It's just gorgeous. And in the background, you can see the boss, the skeleton dragon. This is my favorite boss. It follows you, if you're fast enough, throughout the whole cave while you're going upwards, and it's really good chills. Like, maybe it's been done before, but it's really well executed here. I believe crows start here, and crows are fine, similar to bats. Very hittable. Some of them have a purple outline, not as notable as it could be. It's fine. Mermen. I've never had passion about the part where you go down and now it's wet and now there's mermen. The mermen are my favorite enemies in this game. I think they just capture everything I like about it. They have a very distinct orange and green color scheme. They just kind of pop. They have scary animal well expressions. They have these dead eyes. And when you get them, they fade out in a really cool death animation. And they have just a little bit of a voice, if I'm not mistaken. Again, they don't swarm you. They just come out one by one. It just kind of demands you jump and get them. Going next, because I'm actually rapidly running out of time. The fellows you hit to elongate into stairs, I like them. They're kind of like the bone dragons because they come out of the wall, but their faces are really expressive and they're distinct. I quite like those ones. The sentry skulls themselves, I alluded to, they're very big. There's not a lot of them. They don't stack up very high. They're fine. I don't have a lot of feelings. The smoke is a nice detail, I guess. The Sandmen, I don't like. The Sandmen are my only ones I don't really like. They just kind of spawn so quickly. They take a lot of hits to kill. They get up in your business, and I usually will get a little bit thrown off, but finishing with the boss of level 2, this is unbelievably good. I just think the design is so cool. The face looks really, really, really cool. He has the bonus points for stalking you. And something gives me chills about the way that when you break its head on one end, it regrows on the other. Something very uncanny. It's kind of a good break too, because instead of using all kinds of moves for you to read, it just plays Snake with you. It just wanders around the screen. I thought that was nice. This third level starts to go really, really hard. You know, Bloody Tears. The first time I played, I was like, okay, I'm done, you know, after the Bone Dragon. I had my fill. And then Bloody Tears played, and I'm like, I have to continue. Like, this is the addiction point. It's just, you know, it's a cool castle. This is, I don't know, gets you in the mood. Axe Armor. The Axe Armors I have a lot of opinions on. I've gone on record recently saying I'm an Axe Armor enjoyer. The design I don't think looks that good. I think they look a bit dweeby, but I really appreciate the shield as a way to tell how far into the fight you are. And I think they mix it up with their telegraphing later in the game. I think sometimes they trick you up and like they'll show over and go under. So they're alright, you know, I enjoyed them a lot. They're a good use for boomerang, as is the big skull mounts that breathe fire. What is their real name? They're so iconic. The Jumpy Fleamen. I don't know their real name. I'm trying to capture like my genuine amateur energy here. I think they're usually flea men, but sometimes they're like harpy riders. You know the ones. I actually really like them. I usually hate them. They're really gross and they get up in your business. And even though they are kind of just gross looking here, they're really easy to hit. They pop up in fun times. And oh my god, they make the funniest noise when you kill them. The eyes that come out of these spawners are really good. There's a sequence combining this with the axe armors, and you don't think you have to fuck with them. You think you're fine, and they sneak up on you. They add a lot to make this level good. Now this is like the best, one of the best, just, you know, maybe for gender reasons, rooms in the whole game. The harpies and the purple ghost ladies. It's so fun. The harpies go so hard. They're barely even in the game. And I really don't like harpies. They're the hardest ones for me to fight, anything that swoops in. But this is a very predictable harpy. It's very big. And why is that? Oh, it's because it's fluffy. It's a fluffy harpy. And she has a nice, I think, like green color with like white. She looks so good. She's the best harpy in the series. Then there's the purple ghost ladies, which is really hard to go wrong with and is just very solid, spooky. She has her moment and she's good. The stained glass man boss, I like the idea, and like his arena is really sick. He's kind of dweeby though. Like I'm fine with him. He's a little bit dweeby. Level 4 is my least favorite area. I feel like it's just kind of dirt. And the mummies are a bit of a part of that. I don't dislike them, but they do kind of confuse me because like on one hand they're very imposing and that's cool, but they're hard to kill. And you have torches instead of holy water and you're using them here, so it's like, oh, I'll burn the mummy. No, that doesn't work. Okay, well I don't want to whip it 4 times. I'll walk away. The way that your walk cycles sync, it looks like you're going to start a chase sequence, but no, bats. Like something else starts. So it's just always awkward when I run into them. The Stone Man boss. I'm probably missing something in this level, aren't I? But I just played it, so it might just be that these are the only 2 new ones. The Stone Man boss, I did complain about. There are some moments where it's like, I don't really understand why his red zone stopped taking damage. There's some moments where it's like, okay, fine, I guess I take damage from his hand when I'm there, whatever. Like, it's the only one where it's a little bit, like, hard to read, but it's fun. I like it. It was pretty scary at first, but it's very learnable, so you feel like you're accomplishing something when you learn those phases. Level 5 is really good again. I already said it was amazing with the music, but just, again, they do the build-up where they show you a bunch of experiments to build up to Frankenstein, or I guess he's called the monster, maybe, in Castlevania. But yeah, it's a very cool vibe. The purple skull ghosts that start when you're at the end of the elevator are really cool. They just look really nice, and I think they also have a nice audio thing to go with them. I'm very fond of them. Then the Monster Frankenstein is a really good boss. I quite like his rubble attack. It feels really overwhelming. I've been curious if maybe the rubble is a bit harder to dodge on hard, like they literally changed the hitboxes, because I feel like I should be getting hit more for how overwhelming it is. But they made that cool move that I guess is new to this remake, where the dead man on the table like is involved and you have to hit him. I was confused till I figured it out, but once I did, I was like, this is a really cool move. Again, I said I enjoy the Fleamen. I enjoy their presence in this fight. It's a very nice fight. Frankenstein is just fine. And then I guess we're already at Dracula, and I really like this. I was a bit disappointed that he only has 1 move for his like left and right phase, but it's fun, it's really cool, and it takes a second to learn. I don't fully understand it, but I'm trying. I've done it twice now. And then I really like the 4 heads phase. It looks kind of dorky because they just look like, I don't know, politicians or whatever, just kind of dudes, but I really enjoy how it works. Having just 4 moves you have to learn. and, dodge up, down, one way or the other. Very overwhelming, but very learnable, and hitting the soul as it moves is really engaging. And once I learned that you can hit the heads to stun them, it's like, it's over. This is super fun. This is super fun. I've already beaten it twice, and I really, really enjoy it. And yeah, I think, that pretty much captures all of it now that I'm dangerously running close to running out of time, not doing 2 takes for any of this video. I hope you had fun listening, I just kind of came to be like, bleh, here are all my feelings. Like, don't have the energy to edit or, make a script today. So, yeah, this is how hype I got for a game that is about only as long as the video. I think it's a great start for people who are new to the series. I think it's a really well-made game on its own, and I could picture it getting a soft spot with a whole lot of people, even if it's lacking some of the stuff that might make for a deeper, more like lifetime partnership for a Castlevania game in you. I think a lot of people will have a great time with this and always have fond memories of it. I think they did a great freaking job.